Morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark. There's my mic. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and we are here for the Spark Show this morning, and I am super pumped about today's show for several reasons. Number one, I'm pumped because I am anti-pumped. I'm pumped because I am tired, but I am here regardless. For today's show, we've got the quarterly exhaustion report, how to realign rest alignment, wooden sky rises, and other news. Now, before we get into the lesson today, and that is how to realign with yourself, have you ever been so exhausted that you spent the entire quarter, 3 months, just sprinting for your business or your project, and when you came up from air, you were entirely wrecked? That is about where I'm at. There's my guy, Aussie. I can't believe he's up. Pump it up, Grant. Aussie, I wish I could bring this energy 24 hours a day. Me and Aussie talk throughout the day, most days, on a project we're working on, multiple projects we've been working on, but now a particular project. And I feel bad sometimes because I don't bring the same energy that I do at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. as we do at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. But neither here nor there. Have you ever sprinted so hard that you lost track of who you were, you lost track of your goals, you lost track of your own health and awareness, and even ability just to recover? Like, have you pushed so hard that you've even pushed past the point of remembering how to even recover? That's what quarterly alignments are. Folks, it's April, and that means we're pivoting. That means Q1 is done. That means we are now striding into Q2, but fortunately, it's the first day of Q2. And you can gather yourself up. So today we're going to cover how I use a 5-letter acronym, RESTED, in order to realign myself and get back on track for who I am, my best self for my goals. Because listen to me, your goals, your projects, your health, your relationships, and yes, your spirituality all are worth it. Hear me on that. So we're going to cover that. Before we cover that, we're going to be covering other news. And before that, we're going to be covering pre-markets, but before anything, you know what we're starting with. We have to start a week with Morning Cup of Gratitude. Yes, my off-key singing is for you this morning. Tell me in the comments, please. Start hard, and if it's Aussie, just you and me this morning, or whoever watches this at any time of day, tell me what you're grateful for. If you cannot start the day with gratitude, your day is already starting a little off track, a little crooked. 1 degree off here, if you travel 27 miles, or if you travel to the horizon, you'll be 27 miles off course. If you're off course when you start the day. So start the day with gratitude. I'll start. Let's take a sip first of a hot, warm cup of coffee to start a warm cup of gratitude. I am grateful for the voices who have spoken into my life throughout the years, those who have been ahead of me, those who have been behind me, those who have been around me and have encouraged me. I am grateful for the encouragers, Aussie being one of them. He hits me with a good morning, and if you're in the crypto space or in the Twitter space, GM is just goodwill out there towards people. So good morning to you. And Morning Cup of Gratitude, I'm grateful for the amazing team that we get to build with. I am also grateful for this, and this is what I'm getting at. Today, I could actually show you my report for my sleep, and so that I'm not making this up for the sake of the show. Oh my gosh, hang on real quick. There we go. So I'm not making this up for the sake of the show. I'm going to actually show you my recovery report. This is how, and I feel this in my bone marrow right here. See that red? It won't focus. It says 23% recovery. That's my sleep for last night. Though I slept, I hardly actually recovered, but what I'm grateful for is the voices that have spoken to my life that have, caused me, like Aussie, to be my team members to the left and right of me that I know they're depending on me. So I find it within myself to pull myself up and make this happen. And to the voices that have come ahead of me that have shown me, hey, Grant, sometimes you got to go off balance to achieve what you want to achieve, but here's how to recover. So what I'm really grateful for is my ability to know how and when to pull the plug and say, time out, I got to recover, which is partly my system. It's a system thing. If you don't know how to recover, that's not an intrinsic personality flaw. That's not a character defect. That's a systems issue. And we're going to cover a little bit about that in the lesson today. So what are you grateful for? I heard from Aussie. If you're popping in, I see 3 of you, 5 of you, 4 of you, 3 of you. Tell me what you're grateful for. If you're here to hang out, don't be a lurker. Tell me what you're grateful for and start the day right. Or if you're in another part of the world, start your mid-morning right or your afternoon right, because you can always start anew right where you're at. Let's talk about other news. And before that, if you know of anyone who needs encouragement, needs to be uplifted, needs hope, like or subscribe to this or this channel, wherever you're following us, or just tag a friend because they need encouragement too. If you're watching the show and you need a little encouragement, they need encouragement too. Let's talk about other news. Can you build a skyrise out of wood? Yes. Why are we talking about skyrise sustainability in wood? Other news is this. There are other things going on in this world, and if you get stuck in your own echo chamber, you get stuck in your own head, you get stuck in your own confirmation bias, and you think you're the smartest thing in the world. One of the best habits I have is I challenge people who are not in my space, because those people in turn challenge me. That challenges my thinking, and though I don't need to be distracted with what's going on in other industries, I do need to be aware that there's other worlds out there, and that though this thing is important, it's not the most important thing in the world. Let's talk about an 18-story sustainable wood building. Yes, a skyscraper in Norway has been erected as the tallest sustainable wooden built buildings in the world. It is 18 stories or about 53 meters high, which is huge for a wooden building. If you think about all those floors, it's nuts. And when you think about like sky rises, you think concrete and rebar and cement and all this stuff is what it takes to keep that thing vertical. No, they've managed to do it with a series of plywood. Now, I didn't even want to try to articulate what the building materials were. It was wood, but it was compressed laminate. It was a variety of wooden glued things, but I failed to actually even describe this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this link in the comments and just ask you, please go check this out because we are doing great things. I saw a really funny meme yesterday on Twitter, and it was this: Mars is for quitters. Now, you guys know I'm an Elon Musk fan, and you know that I personally would love to go to Mars. But let me tell you something, that tickled me. Mars is for quitters, and behind all of that was this: we can do good things to create a more sustainable world. Check out this article about let me get the name right here, the Mjolstartnet. And I think that that's named after a lake that this high-rise is built next to. And the name after it is there. But check it out. It is super cool. It's got apartments, offices, workout space. It's a phenomenal building. And I think I'm going to put this on my bucket list to visit some of these sustainably built sky rises around the world. Let's talk about the markets real quick. Is the sky falling? Should we be panicking? If we were listening to Jim Cramer or whoever, we on one hand would think that there's a complete total meltdown of the markets. Well, let's just look at the numbers. The Dow is at 33,500 last week when I reported it was at 32,500. It's up 1,000 points. The S&P 500 is 4,100. Last week when I reported it was at 4,000. The Nasdaq's at 13,200. Last week when I reported it was at 12,900. Now, that puts the three TradFi markets over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks consecutively highs week over week. Now, does that mean we're in a bull market? No. But does that build the case that we are in a down market and the sky is falling economically across the entire market? No. Is the banking collapse going to happen? Maybe. We'll see. Uh-oh. Got to sneeze. That doesn't happen often on air, but you were here. My soul left my body during my sneezes, which is quite abnormal for me. But back to the markets. 5 weeks, week over week highs. I would say that we are not in a complete market meltdown. Yes, the banking crisis could still happen. Yes, inflation could still Yes, Aussie, the sneeze did get me. Thank you for sticking it out with me on that one. That's what you do with a live show, folks. Sometimes you sneeze. But does that mean the banking crisis is held off? No. Inflation is the thing that's actually wreaking more economic havoc than banking collapses. We look at banking collapses and we think that's a bad thing. Well, so long as depositors can get their money, maybe the bank should close. Maybe we shouldn't prop it up. There's a lot of opinions out there. But what we are learning is this. If you think that we're out of the woods because we're in an up market, that's a little misleading. You should still be making wise decisions. You should still be dollar cost averaging. You should still be investing in assets that provide cash flow or economic growth at large. You should still be working on your earning capacity so that in any market you have value to offer so that you're always employable, or you should be a high enough lit entrepreneur that you're completely unemployable, which means you know how to produce. There are a lot of other tactics you should do, but what you should never do is cool your heels. You should never think, oh, we're in a complete market meltdown. I'm just going to coast and figure out what's going on. Or you should look at the markets and go, oh, the markets are up for 5 weeks. Grant told me. Go check the stats yourself. I'm going to coast. You should never coast. Not that you should never be at ease. You should always be in control, and we call this agency of your destiny. So that's the DeFi, the TradFi markets. Real quick, let's look at the DeFi markets. In the DeFi markets, Bitcoin is at 28,300. Last week when I reported, it was at 27,900. It did take a dip last week. It did take a dip yesterday. In fact, it might take a dip again because Crypto.com was also served recently with a notice from the SEC. I'm not sure if it's a Wells notice. Aussie might actually know off the top of his head because he is the master, the grandmaster of decentralized news. Go ahead and check it out. But we're not really sure what notice Crypto.com was served, or I don't. But so we might see the market tick down again. But what I was supremely impressed about is how much of society is looking at the ups and downs of headlines, starting to distrust the providers of these headlines, and starting to keep their money in crypto because they feel a little bit more in control. The phrase, not your keys, not your coin, tends to grab a lot of people. And if Coinbase shuts down, you can't get to your crypto. If Crypto.com shuts down, you can't get to your crypto. But if all of it collapses, do you still have your Ledger Nano, your cold storage wallet? Are you in control? If the markets tank, are you in control? If the US dollar tanks and my Bitcoin is still doing okay, I'm actually afloat because of my Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 28,300. Last week was 27,900. Ethereum, 1,800. Last week when I reported, it was at 1,700. Cardano ADA is at 39 or 0.399 cents, almost 40 cents. Last week when I reported, it's at 35 cents. This week, XRP or Ripple's at 51 cents. Last week when I reported, it was at 46 cents. That's it for the markets. Let's talk about real quick our businesses. Our Wonderland Investment Group continues to dollar cost average. Aussie says it's not confirmed, but it was likely a Wells notice. Go watch the Not Crypto Bros to figure out what Wells notices are. And we have a special guest, Brian Naughton from the UK, a crypto writer, an author, and participant. Check him out at Not Crypto Bros. Our real estate investments. This week, we are looking forward to getting our appraisal. If our appraisal comes through on our investment property, it is most likely we will be moving forward with that investment. Our current strategy is to house hack that property. We're getting it on an FHA loan. And then this property that we're in is a 4-bedroom. We'll probably look at house hacking that one. And then our real estate property in Cocoa Beach, known as the Grimes property. On Airbnb, it's a 1-1 efficiency, and that still continues to produce for us. In fact, the cash flow and surplus and emergency fund that account has built up has largely paid for a lot of the improvements we're doing on this property and the other property while we're getting ready to house hack them. That's just a quick update on the business investments, but let's talk about what you're here to talk about, and that is, how do you do a quarterly realignment? I called it the quarterly exhaustion report. Usually we're used to quarterly earnings reports, but this week for me, as I showed you on my Whoop, and not a plug here at all, but I use Whoop to tell me how recovered and rested I am. And you can see that red bar that tells me and it's reversed for you all, but that's only 23% recovered. So I'm calling today's thing the quarterly exhaustion report, and how to make sure you're using threshold moments. A threshold moment is a transition from a quarter to a quarter, a month to a month, a week to a week, or an evening to a morning. These are very important threshold moments. Maybe it's your birthday. Maybe it's New Year's. Threshold moments are supremely important to get your mind back, get your goals back, and give yourself permission to rest. So for my quarterly exhaustion report, we're going to be covering a little bit of how I recommend you, because I need to do this today. This is my prescription for myself today. I tried to do it Saturday. I didn't get there. I tried to do it last night. Still didn't get it done. I got to do it today so that I am my best for my businesses. Let's talk about it a little bit. Have you ever woken up and realized you were completely exhausted to your bone marrow? This is when your muscle tissue and your bones can't keep you vertical, and even your bone marrow is crying out to please rest. I woke up this morning feeling that way. Through a variety of reasons, my rest has been tossed and turned. for weeks now, and I actually have the data to prove it, that I just am not getting recovered like I should. Partly it's my workouts are more intense than before. I'm cutting on my nutrition more than ever before, and that causes some really good advancements from a nutrition and health, but it's also exhaustion. On the business side, we have multiple projects. A particular project that Aussie was mentioning, who's one of my partners on the project, and Jarrett Carpenter as well. But also our web design company, transitioning to focusing on a web design company for several niches. Instead of just broad small business, there's a small handful of niches that we're focusing on. We got into a cash flow issue in the middle of the quarter, which sometimes happens. So we turned on the jets and made a bunch of sales, and now we have a bottleneck on the production side, which tends to happen. So I worked through the weekend in my Web2 world, making sure that I was meeting my requirements. Have you ever had so many demands on your life, whether from work or even from the boons of work? Whether it's, hey, I got to get time off from work to spend time with my family, but now that I'm with my family, I got to do everything for my family. Our real estate investments are causing us to slip in real estate projects in between these other moments. And I know that FOCUS stands for follow one course until successful. But as a multiple streams of income investor, I got to make sure that there are moments, especially in real estate, when I don't do anything for months on real estate. But then there are moments where it completely owns your life, whether it's paperwork or talking to contractors or doing stuff yourself. But it's the same with our development projects, and it's the same with our relationships, and it's the same with our fitness. Have you ever found that everything tends to bottleneck at the same time, and then everything tends to lag at the same time? Well, try as we might, stay as organized as we might. That's just the natural order of it. But I venture a guess of this. You can predict this a little bit. And if you can predict it, you can take care of yourself a little bit. How do you predict? How do you predict when everything is going to bottleneck and when it's going to crash? Because chances are that the commitments from your TLE, I call this the TLE, by the way, if you're new to the Spark world, TLE stands for the total life experience, and that's feeling a 7 to 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 in fitness and health, healthy, happy relationships, work I enjoy, and spirituality. And in those areas, we try to push our goals so that we're always feeling a level 7 to 10. And then if we can do our fitness with a relationship, if we can do relationships where we're building things we like, if we can do spirituality while we're getting fit and doing it with people that we like, if these areas can overlap, we even shore up that so we feel better about life more consistently. That's the TLE. That's a freedom framework for you. But if these ever seem to bottleneck, meaning the commitments of even good things seem to be so overwhelming, I venture a guess that it's predictable from this one thing. You can only sprint really for about 90 days. Now, a lot of developers think you can only sprint for about 3 weeks. Well, these are people who work 24/7, work around the clock, barely sleep, and push out feature sets for apps. That's known as agile development. They do 3-week sprints. But for real life, for those who are not software engineers, we can actually manage our life for about 90 days. Quarters are a very convenient structure by which you can see yourself starting out of the gate really strong. At each monthly increment, you take a little bit of a break and you rally and you get going. But by the end of that quarter, you need a real pause. You need a real break. I venture a guess that when you feel bottlenecked typically around some form of an 80 to 90 day cycle when you are actually just completely worn out and you need a reset. And that's good. And I recommend you reset. And this is what's happened to me over the last quarter. But what's worse is my sleep's off. And if my sleep's off and I'm not getting recovered, things seem to get so much more challenging and so much more difficult. When things seem overwhelming and seem to be bottlenecked, chances are they're not actually bottlenecked. Chances are you don't have the bandwidth or the paradigm to stay focused enough to remember where everything goes, to remember your state when you felt in control, to remember the trajectory and the goal for everything. You have too many open loops. And chances are when you're exhausted like that, you don't have the mental reserves to actually know where everything's at. You see, most of us are handling more than we actually can typically handle. But most of us don't notice because most of us have just woken up. We got a fresh cup of coffee and our paradigm is positive and assertive and strong. It's the early part of some sprint. Maybe we had a good weekend. Maybe we had a good afternoon. Maybe we had a good week and we feel recharged in our mind. And Aussie says bandwidth is the right term for this. Absolutely. I believe you should focus, but even if you were focused on a single course, like I have multiple streams of income, if I was only focused on my website company, and I probably should, that's good advice. I would still feel this in quarterly increments where my bandwidth slowly degraded over time and I needed a complete reset. I guarantee that there's not really a bottleneck. There's just as much as ever before, but you have a lower or lessened capacity to handle it. And that's probably a sign you need to do my 5-letter acronym called RESTED. So how are we going to handle this? I want to remind you of a way that you can handle and get back to realign. So I want you to make sure that you jot this down, RESTD. Yes, it's not ED, which is 6 letters. Mine's a 5-letter acronym, RESTD. Stands for rested. And let me give you this acronym to remember how to realign, get rested, realign with your goals, but really realign with your rested, rejuvenated self so that you can get out there and tackle things today. Here they are. First one, R. R in rested stands for this. Remember. R stands for remember. Remember that your business, your projects, your goals, your fitness and health, your healthy, happy relationships, the work you enjoy, your spirituality, your fitness and health, your goals are worth it. R stands for remember. Remember that you're worth it. E. E stands for employ atomic habits. Now, atomic habits are this. Oftentimes we don't quit. Oftentimes we don't rest because we are afraid. We're afraid that we're going to lose track of our goals. We're afraid that we're going to lose momentum. We're afraid that we're going to lose all the boons that we were building up towards, or people are going to call us doubters. We're afraid that mainly we lose track of our habits that have brought us even modicum of success. E stands for employ. Employ atomic habits. My best example is this. Mondays are a rest day so I can get here and do this show. But I don't want to lose track of my habit of going to the gym. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose that momentum. So I employ an atomic habit. I still go to the gym. I still walk on the treadmill for 15, 20. Today was 30 minutes. I still take a shower, get around at the gym so that that experience stays with me. I employed that atomic habit. So R stands for remember. Remember your business and project, and you are worth it. E stands for employ. Employ an atomic habit with your habits so that you scratch that itch so that you can do the next one, and that is to S. Stop. Give yourself permission to stop. Give yourself permission to stop for a single day and rest. Oftentimes, because of the previous point, we don't want to lose track of our goals. We don't want to be seen as a quitter, but hear me on this. You've been sprinting for at least 80 to 90 days. You might have taken a Saturday or a Sunday, but in your mind, you were still spinning, you were still working. You were allowed to stop. Now, if you're a lazy butt and you've been giving yourself permission to quit and stop for the last quarter, and you're always saying, let me take a break, let me take a break, let me take a break, don't give yourself permission to stop. But most of you are not like that. Most of you have been giving it your all for at least 2-3 months. R stands for remember. Remember that your goals and you are worth it, and your people are worth it, and the people benefiting from your goals and your projects are worth it. E, employ atomic habits. You employ atomic habits so that you get that FOMO need, like going to the gym. I don't want to miss out. Well, instead of going for a 6-mile run on your rest day, walk around the block so that you're used to putting on your shoes. You're used to walking around the block. You're used to smelling the morning air, and you're not a quitter. But then S, give yourself permission to stop. Listen, if you can't take a day, you don't have a life. If you cannot look at your loved ones and say, I need an afternoon, can you give me permission? Because I'm a warrior, I'm strong, because I'm consistent. Could you give me permission to cool my jets? We need our loved ones, and not just our partner or spouse, but our friends and our supporters and our team to turn to us and know when to say, hey, it's okay, take today off. Literally put your phone down. Don't check Twitter. Don't check the news feeds. Please bum out, rest, turn your mind off, meditate, and sleep the deep sleep. And come back tomorrow strong. R, remember your business or project are worth it. E, employ the atomic habit to get it off your system. Get it out of your system so you're not afraid of FOMO. S, stop and give yourself permission to stop for at least one day. T stands for turn it off. turn off all your devices, except maybe a gaming console. Turn off your notifications, turn off your phone for a single day. If you've been going for 2 months, 3 months, as I'm sure you are, you're a passionate person, your dreams are worth it, you work hard. I believe that about you. Give yourself permission for one day to turn it off. I'm not anti-tech. I'm into tech. One of the projects we're working on with Aussie right there that you see right there is a Web3 project. I have a web design company. We are connected, and I believe in social media. I believe in notifications. I believe in being connected, but I believe you've been doing it too much, and I believe you need to rest. My acronym RESTED are: remember that you are worth it, your business are worth it, your recipients of your project and your goals are worth it. E, employ atomic habits to get it off your mind so that you don't consider yourself a quitter. S, then give yourself permission to stop for a day. T, turn it off, put the phone down, flip the TV on, turn the TV off, open up a book. Your brain's gonna fall asleep immediately. Lastly, D. What does D stand for? And yes, we skipped the second E. That's okay. It's an acronym. Bear with me. D, dust off your goals. Pull out your quarterly chart. Listen, if you're not familiar with the State of the Spark, we have built a vision document. It's called the Vision Summary, and it's your quarterly guide. If you don't have access to this, comment in the comments below. I'll get you a free copy. We sell it on stateofthespark.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. And there's a guide on how to actually do this whole process of pulling out your goals every quarter and going through. And just a quick high-level view. People talk about goals, objectives, strategies, plans, and actions. And you can be tactical with the whole thing. Do not look at this if you have not rested your mind. Remember the acronym. I won't go through it right now. Record or watch it again or check it out, but it's rested. But we're assuming you've taken rest now, and only then do you dust off your goals. And zoom out at the highest level. I call it the 100,000-foot view, and that's, instead of goals, objectives, strategy, plans, and actions, start with V, the letter V, which is vision and values. What's my vision? Who am I trying to shape myself into becoming? Who am I trying to model for my nieces and my nephews and my kids? Boom. Get it. It'll help you achieve your goals 100%. I'll share this in the show notes below, Aussie. But literally, after you've rested, you need to pull out your goals and remind yourself, wait, instead of just doing, I have executed for 90 days and I'm tired. And part of that exhaustion is I no longer see what my daily actions are building towards. And that's when you start feeling I have no direction. That's when you start feeling with your partner or your loved one. Have we sat down? Does your partner, does your spouse, does your intimate team, do they know even what your vision and values are? And maybe it's time to change your goals, your objectives, your strategies, your plans, or your actions. Maybe it's time to adjust that. That's what the quarterly alignment is for. Maybe you feel like something you've been doing for the last 45 or 90 days is turning fruitless. Well, the quarterly alignment is the time for you to zoom up and ask yourself, knowing what I now know, which is a power statement, put that statement in your heart. Knowing what I now know, is this still the right objective, strategy, plan, or action for me? I'll put those frameworks in the show notes below because you got to see there's several Spark Freedom frameworks. One is the VGOSPA Freedom Framework. It's how to think tactically. The other is the Vision Summary poster, which you put on your wall. It's a dry erase poster you put on your wall, and it helps you remind yourself when you're feeling lost to look up from your desk and look across from your desk and go, what am I working towards? I'm working towards that. And it might bring new energy, or it might tell you, hey, that's worth it. Go take a nap. The acronym is RESTED, R-E-S-T-D. Remember, you and your goals and the recipients of your goals are worth it. E, employ atomic habits. Do one thing so that you give yourself permission to ease up in the next step, but employ the atomic habit in the smallest possible way so your goal doesn't let go. S, stop. Give yourself permission to, at least for that day a quarter, or that week a quarter, that weekend a quarter, do nothing. 4, turn it off. Turn off your brain, turn off your notifications, bail. Tell your Twitter following, hey, I'll be back tomorrow. Tell whoever, tell your email inbox, hey, I'm taking the afternoon, I'll be back in the office tomorrow. Reach out to this team if you still need help. And number 5, D, after your brain is rested and you feel recharged, don't just jump back into execution mode. Don't just jump back into doing mode. Pivot and dust off. D, dust off your goals, hopefully with your vision summary poster. Has this been helpful to you? Has this been encouraging to you? Let me know in the comments. Is this even worth it? Are you hearing me? Are you feeling it? Are you going to give yourself permission to rest, truly rest? Go out into the countryside, or like Aussie, go make some maple syrup or whatever it is you do. Why are we talking about any of this? Because as I've said, I believe in your vision. Your vision is worth it. I need to see your vision. In fact, the vision inside of me is so big that I will never do it and my teams will never do it. I need you to do components because this world can be better. People can be more positive. You and I can be happier. Our partnerships and our relationships can be happier if all of us are doing our part as citizens, as civilians, as partners, as intimate spouses, as team members. We can do better. Aussie says, very encouraging. Maple syrup sap was flowing this weekend. He knows how to unwind on the farm. He's his own hero because he's faced a lot too in the last month. And he's overcome it, and he's out there making maple syrup. And it just brings joy to do stuff like that. I appreciate you, but why are we talking about all this, folks? We're talking about it for the mission to ignite lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a great day.